So I just want to take a minute to welcome everyone to today's LinkedIn Live event. This is part of our AI Expert Series through SDSU Global Campus's Career Skills Institute. My name is Andrea, and I will be your moderator today. This is the second event in our three-part AI Expert Series, and we're going to be focusing on how to turn data into action with AI. So our goal really today is to empower you with the skills that you need to not only master data analysis and reporting, but to make smarter business decisions and faster business decisions. And we'll also go ahead and share some tools that you can use to do just that. I am super excited and thrilled to be joined by Mike Tedasco, who is an AI expert with a wealth of experience leveraging AI for data insights. And I'm also excited to be joined by our very own Dean of SDSU Global Campus, Ian Gibson. And he's going to share some insights and kick us off today on why it's so important to be able to master AI and also data analysis to stay ahead in today's workforce. But before we dive into today's presentation, I just wanted to share a couple of housekeeping notes with you all. The first is the session will be recorded. So we'll share the presentation out with you after the event. It'll also be accessible via the LinkedIn Live event page, so you'll always have access to it. If you have any questions, please feel free to drop them in the LinkedIn Live chat. Um, we'll have a dedicated Q&A segment toward the end of the session. And then make sure you stay with us to the end because we'll be asking you to vote on our topic for the next event, which is going to come up on Friday, July 11th. All right, without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and pass the baton over to our dean, Ian, and he's going to share some insights on workforce trends related to data analysis. So welcome to the stage, Ian.
Thank you so much, Andrea, and wonderful to be connecting with everyone today. As you mentioned, my name is Ian Gibson. I'm the Dean of Global Campus here at San Diego State University, which is the home of the Career Skills Institute. And it is this institute which is actually bringing you this content, our AI Expert Series, and are very much looking forward to continuing this with today's edition. And we've got some other fun things planned for you starting in coming months. As we get these loaded up. All right, fantastic. So let me go ahead and describe a little bit more about what the Career Skills Institute is. So what we're aiming to do at CSI, which is what we call the Career Skills Institute, we're closing the skills gap and helping learners take charge of their futures. So as San Diego's premier career accelerator, CSI provides access to more than 500 online courses and skills training programs to empower learners with in-demand, future-ready skills. We align with industry to prepare learners with the needed skills in a flexible and accessible manner. Our commitment to success provides access to skills and education in a way that meets current learner needs. Certificates, micro-credentials, and a host of other offerings, these provide proof of skills to help you advance your careers. CSI's broad portfolio of skills includes everything from, of course, AI to HR, cybersecurity to social media marketing, and so much more, and providing these affordable pathways into today's most in-demand careers. So whether you're upskilling, reskilling, or just starting out, CSI is the launchpad for your next chapter. If we're able to go to the next slide, please. Fantastic. So what you're looking at here is the report which came out of the World Economic Forum just earlier this year. The data represents feedback from over 1,000 employers, representing more than 14 million workers across 22 industry clusters and 55 economies. So very much worldwide data. And they resoundingly came back with 7 in 10 companies identifying analytical thinking as the top workforce priority for 2024. Now, the graphic that you're seeing on the left side of the screen, I had drilled into just the US side of this data, where actually the stat jumped from 69% up to 75% of business leaders indicating that yes, analytical thinking is indeed number one, which notably outranks things like technological literacy, AI, resilience, and so many other skills that certainly we see a lot in the headlines. Next slide, please. So this edition of our series is specifically designed to boost your data analysis skills. We view this as a force multiplier for analytical thinking because neither is effective in isolation. Analytical thinking really frames the question. If you don't know what questions to ask, if you don't understand what it is you're really trying to pull an insight around, then the data is not going to help you that much. But you have to have the data analysis skills in order to really create this flywheel of insights to amplify your analytical thinking. So in my mind, this is a bit like hook and loop or Velcro. If you only have one half, really it's not going to do very much good. Your kids' shoes are going to be falling off. You got to have both pieces to pull them together, which is what empowers, fast and effective decision making. Next slide, please. So zooming in a bit on relevance again, going from a worldwide perspective to a nationwide perspective, and now you're seeing data based on the San Diego metro area. This slide includes two screen grabs I pulled from the Lightcast data. If you're not familiar with Lightcast, it's an organization that scrapes millions and millions and millions of job postings so we can mine insights from them. So in San Diego alone, over this past year, there was more than 11,000 job postings, specifically including data analysis. And this particular skill was identified as one that was going to be growing at a greater rate than 25% in the future, which means, yes, not only relevant today, but even more relevant in the future. Importantly, too, this table on the left side identifies occupations that included data analysis skills explicitly in the job posting. And what I wanted to highlight here is just how varied these occupations are. Everything from marketing to finance, chemistry, and other sciences. Data skills are applicable to virtually everyone. I think that becoming much more literate and learning the skills of data analysis and analytical thinking, this is the new baseline for the workforce, period. So whatever role you might have, whatever the size of organization you're in, there's really no escaping that it is essential to really level up on your data skills. Next slide, please. Thank you. So where does CSI come in? You can think of us as your on-ramp. Through events like today, in continuing our expert series in AI, we want to help you skill up. We recognize that it's can be overwhelming out there trying to find your own resources. And that's why we're able to use the strength of the university and our network of experts, just like Mike Tedasco here, to help serve as your gateway into AI mastery and so many other skills. So with that, I will get out of the way so we all can learn from today's guest, Mike Tedasco. Mike?
All right. Thank you, Ian. Hi, everybody. Happy to be here with you all, especially for folks who were here last month. We did a series on unlocking productivity using AI at work. That was one we had done in the past, and hopefully we will do more of these. So thank you, everybody, for returning. And for first timers, well, welcome. We're going to get into a little bit of who I am very briefly. Then we're going to get into kind of the assistants that we'll be talking about. We'll be talking about analytics, reporting, all of that fun stuff. And it is amazing the kind of things that you can do with these tools. And one of the reasons we do these sessions is because the way to be more effective with AI is to look at what others are doing out there. The crazy thing about these tools is they are made to be general purpose, which means that the creators of these tools don't have a specific use case in mind because there's nearly infinite things that you can do with them. But given that, sometimes the best thing and the best way to learn is to literally see somebody do something like, oh, I didn't know you could do that. Well, maybe I could use that for this and so forth. And that's why we do these types of sessions to be able to share that. So we're going to expose you to potentially some new tools and some new ways to use them. And we're going to have ample, ample, ample time at the end to answer any questions that you might have. So please, that's my favorite part of these presentations. You can ask about AI stuff, reporting and analytics specifically, or whatever the heck. I don't care. Andrea is going to be fielding the questions. So if she finds it to be interesting, she's going to send it up my way, and we'll have that as part of the discussion. So again, glad you're all here as part of this. Who am I? I am a kind of an atypical tech guy. I live in Silicon Valley, even though I am a visiting fellow at the SDSU. AI Center. I've worked in technology for many years, running the innovation lab at PayPal for some time. Got to work on a lot of new and emerging technology as part of that. And AI is also was part of the many things that I got to play with. And that, according to my own ChatGPT, is what I look like when I just asked it for the prompt of what does Mike Tedesco look like without actually pre-training it. So that as of May 5th is what I look like. I'm going to see as I give it more knowledge of me over time if it might actually get that. It's a very hard task to actually achieve. If you're at all interested, I write on LinkedIn all the time about AI related stuff. Click on that. You could just give me a follow or something. You'll see that if you're at all interested in that stuff. Um, so for today, we're going to be walking through 5 different AI models: ChatGPT, Claude, Perplexity, Gemini, and Google's NotebookLM. Here's the thing I will say, there are a lot of other ones out there, a lot of other ones with these exact same capabilities as well. It could be XAI, it could be Mistral, it could be DeepSeek. There are a ton of them out there. These are just some of them that I use the most. But just because I'm showing something in one and maybe you don't have access to that one at your work, largely speaking, these things are applicable to many other things that you can do. So, like the most models today are multimodal. When it's not and it's specific, I will be sure to flag that out. I tried to do the best match, but also wanted to get you to see 5 different ones as part of that. So we'll be discussing that. And if you have questions about pros and cons of them, I can even get to that in the questions later on, of course, as well. Here is a little bit of the history of reporting and analysis. So this was fun. One of the things that you might notice I do is I use AI generations and doing this. And one of the fun tools that we have with the new ChatGPT 4.0 image generation is it could create charts like this. And this was just fascinating. I basically queried it to say, hey, I think it was maybe 2 prompts. One was give me a high level history of reporting and analytics. And the second one was like, okay, now make a chart out of that. Not perfect, but pretty darn good. I mean, so it started me with Pacioli, Luca Pacioli, I believe his name was the monk back in the 1400s who invented double entry accounting, which is kind of crazy. And look, what accounting was all this. It was to basically measure trade. It was for taxes. It was for all these kind of things is where a lot of the roots and numbers and so forth come. Uh, you know, things were done in big notebooks and so forth until the computer revolution. And that brings us to the time of VisiCalc, which I am not old enough to have used in the past, but I am definitely familiar with. Um, and just bringing in the world of spreadsheets completely changed how to do reporting and analysis. Lotus 123, of course, and Microsoft Excel, which is still the kingpin of that world for the last 40 years, I will say. Um, and still very much being used. We have different ERP systems, Tableau and reporting and so forth. All of these things happen, and then this might be, maybe with the exception of double entry or accounting, the biggest thing that we're seeing in the world of reporting and analysis with generative AI. The kind of things that we're going to be capable of in just a few years, and you're going to see some of the things we're capable of today, is going to completely revolutionize how we do this. What the roles of people in reporting, accounting, financial analysis are going to be in the future. Because, as we like to say in the AI world, today is the worst that these models are ever going to be. They're only going to get better from here. So kind of keep that in mind as you might be seeing some things you're seeing for the first time today and what they're actually capable of. It's going to be kind of mind blowing with where this can actually go. All right. So with that first exercise, we're going to have 5 separate ones of these. The first one I'm calling finding anomalies in a large data set. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to use Google Gemini to do this. Again, you can use other models to do this as well. Gemini is the first one that I'm going to show you. Most of the Gemini models are free. I think you have to pay for some of them. Uh, but most of these things that you're going to see today, none of it's going to cost you more than 20 bucks a month. So it's either going to be free or near free for just about everything. And here's the exercise we're going to do. I'm calling it finding a needle in a haystack. I downloaded a whole bunch of recent public information. So this is information that's actually not going to be within the data set itself. It is from NYC 311. And here's what we're going to do. And you can even watch this. So it's about 185,000 rows of data. We're going to put in something and we're just going to see if Gemini can find it. I have no idea if this is going to work. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, because we're going to talk about probabilistically how these models work a little bit as well. But we're going to do this live, and because I love doing things live, and we'll see what actually occurs. So I'm going to stop sharing for 1 second because I just realized I got to share my screen instead. So bear with me 1 second while I switch this thing over. You're still going to see me. I'm not going to go away anywhere. I'm going to actually share the entire screen this time just so you can see everything. There we go. So now you're probably seeing everything on here. I am going to pull up a document for y'all. Sorry. Do this. Here we go. Here is NYC. So I'm opening this up. It's a huge CSV file. And it's going to take a second or so to open up. There we go. Okay, so what I'm going to do, so as you can see here, if you go, we got 185,000 lines in this thing. What I am going to do is I am going to put in some junk data. So you see right here, what I'm doing is just for formatting reasons, I'm just going to copy something. And then, and for folks not in NYC, I'm not in New York City, this is just all the 311 service calls. This is all public information. I just downloaded this off the internet just as an example. So this row here, I copied in. And instead of rodents, I'm going to do this on the fly. I'm going to make this dinosaur instead of that. Um, um, And I'm going to basically say that we are attracting dinosaurs as part of this, and there should be a description thing in here as well. Open. They're taking over. Okay. And again, I've run this twice. One of the two times it actually does find it. Now, mind you, this in seconds is going to be going through a lot of data. And when we're doing this, I'm going to just see, is there a description in here or anything? Taking over. Yeah, let's just do this. I'm going to save this. I'm going to then close this, and we're going to upload this into our friendly Gemini program here. Excuse me. You're seeing that. There it is. Okay, hold on. Gemini. Okay, so here's all you do. You just go to gemini.google.com. And what you can do is you can upload files. You can upload massive files into there. So I am uploading this whole CSV file, and I already copied the prompt here. So you can see what I have there. So attaches a file of public data. I think someone may have slipped something in that's not supposed to be there. It's in just one, should I actually say one row. Can you find it? It's pretty obvious if you figure it out. It might even be humorous. Go sleuthing and find it out. So I'm going to do this, and the one I am selecting is 2.5 Pro Preview. So generally speaking with these models, and we'll get into OpenAI, the bigger the number, the more powerful the model is. You would figure. OpenAI is a little bit different because some of their smaller models are actually more powerful. We can get into that a bit. But that said, let's run this, and I'm going to talk as it's running in the background. You can actually see if this does it live. So again, there's all this stuff about rodents, noise violations, all this. There's 185,000 rows of data that it has to churn through just to see if it finds the word dinosaur a couple times. Now, I didn't even look before. There might have been some crazy person calling with a dinosaur complaint or something. That might actually exist in there. But let's just see what it actually comes back with. And the whole point of doing this kind of exercise, and again, this is kind of a silly version of this. I'm just going to have this open here so you can see. What if you want to find some outliers in your data sets? Maybe it is that you want to detect fraud or something like that. Badly formatted data, all this kind of stuff. You can do all of that with these models here. Um, and the one thing that you will find out, what we're doing is kind of what's known as a one-shot analysis. So we're literally doing it and seeing, hey, does it get it right away? One shot, one try. That's not the best way to use these models. Just an interest of time is how we're doing that and why we're doing that this way today. Um, Generally, you want these things to be a back and forth type of conversation. Um, and so here, you could actually see in here kind of so some of the models, this started with the Chinese model DeepSeek, where they can actually show thinking as part of this. So you can actually see the thinking as it's proceeding through this. And it may be stuck. I don't actually know. But what we're going to do is we're going to go to the next one. We'll come back to Gemini and see if it actually found our dinosaur in there or not. Bear with me here. Just go present. There we go. Okay. Um, so that's what we're doing. We'll see what happens. Next one, we're going to use a tool called NotebookLM. This is something that's made by Google. It's actually using a slightly different architecture than the other models that we've talked about before. So this is something called RAG, which is Retrieval Augmented Generation. And what it does is you upload a bunch of documents into this, and it will first use those and kind of bring those documents into immediate memory, and then we'll reference it and so forth as part of it. It's a really slick tool. Again, free and paid versions of NotebookLM, and it's pretty simple to go through. And what we're going to do is a little bit of contextual financial analysis, I'm calling it. So imagine you have a whole bunch of documents, a whole bunch of SEC reports that you have to and want to go through. And you're trying to find bits and pieces of information. You're trying to find trends from it. How do you actually do that? Well, here's what we're going to do. I put in Berkshire Hathaway. I put in their 10Ks, and we're going to ask it a question like, hey, is tone changing? Has your position in Apple stock changed, and so forth? But you can do this with anything. In the paid version, I believe you can upload as many as 50 documents in there. You can do this for due diligence. You can do this for compliance reasons, competitive intelligence. And again, the difference with these models is, again, within these RAG models, it's more of the focus on the quality of data that you're uploading in there and using those as primary source information to do the analysis. Okay, so here it is. I already did it. All that you would have to do is go to notebooklm.google.com right there. And then on the side here, you would just add whatever documents you want. And all I did here is I went to the internet, uploaded the last 4 Berkshire Hathaway 10Ks and put them in there. Now, all that I have to do in this section here is I can actually query it. So I'm just going to copy in what I have here, and then I'll read this out loud to y'all. So how's the tone of Berkshire changed over the last few years? Optimistic, pessimistic about macro trends? Any red flags? Blah, blah, blah. What do they say about Apple and Amex positions? How has that changed? So I asked a whole bunch of questions. I'm going to just set this off thinking, and we're going to see what it's going to do. Now, while it's doing that, one of the other things I want to point out, and this is actually hugely useful, especially for somebody like me who loves to listen to stuff. You may have seen things on the internet about 2 podcast hosts that are AI talking about something. If I hit this generate button, it would actually have them talking about the last 4 years of Berkshire 10Ks. Now, is that probably the most useful case for this? No, but say you're working in HR and you want somebody to have a tool where you could talk about all the changes in the healthcare benefits this past year, you could literally generate something like that in there. So nice little added feature there on the right that's included as part of all of these. And so here's what you actually have. So you could see it gave all of this information. It talks about caution and preparedness. And you'll see one of the things it actually does is it gives footnotes to all of these things. So right here, it says across the years, there's a consistent theme of financial strength, redundant liquidity, blah, blah, blah. And then you click here, and this is actually referring to the part of the document, and verbatim is bringing in the part that is referring to that in the 2021 version of the 10K. And again, and that keeps going and going and going. So then it gives a summary of that. And then it talks a little bit more about sustainability, capturing goodwill, blah, 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 other red flags in the marketplace and all that. And then specifically, what does it say about American Express and Apple? And again, I could go deeper into that. I could ask follow-up questions and so forth. There's no limit to the types of analysis that you can do using this type of tool. And again, it's really helpful because one of the ways that make this more effective is it actually hallucinates a lot less than what you might see in other non-RAG tools like ChatGPT, Claude, and so forth. So if you're trying to do data analysis or like trying to, pull out themes from reports, this is a great place where you could start. Okay. So that is ChatGPT, or I'm sorry, that is NotebookLM, not ChatGPT. Going back, here we go. Oh, what is it? What does this have here? So, wow. Okay, this is this is New York for you. Um, so somebody had a Godzilla sighting in the data. So there was a giant monster problem with Godzilla, um, and that is seems to actually be in the data set. So this is New York for you. Lo and behold, it didn't find my dinosaur because it found Godzilla first. So I'm sure I could keep asking it even to go further and further. Like, this is fascinating to me. I actually did not know that that was in the data set that somebody had a Godzilla sighting, but there you have it. But again, bringing it back, what other questions can you ask us? I'm intentionally using kind of a ridiculous example, as you all can know and tell here. Um, but like, what else is it that you would want to find in your data? And you have hundreds of thousands of rows. Yes, you're going to do your own analysis, but what else can the AI do in addition to that to help benefit you? Like, did somebody on your team or somebody somewhere put some journal entry for some uh, Godzilla insurance in there? This is the way to find out. Um, I'm fascinated by that it actually turned out that way. Okay. So back into this. So you saw that. So first one, Google Gemini, finding a needle in a haystack. Second one, Berkshire Hathaway using analysis of their 10Ks using Google's NotebookLM to get deep into that information. Third thing I want to show you all is something called deep research. And we're going to use a tool called Perplexity to do that now. Um, now, so here's the example. Let's just say that you are in an industry and you are freaked out about where the tariffs are going right now. And maybe you're even a US exporter and you just want to know, hey, what is it that we can do? I'm sending avocados from California to places all around the world. Like, have there been changes in the export tariffs and so forth as part of this? This is something where you could yourself do a whole lot of research, or you could use one of these deep research type tools to do that. So, one of the things with deep research, just about every company has one. So ChatGPT, Claude, XAI, Perplexity, which I will show you in a second, Gemini as well. They all have different deep research tools. And they're either called deep thinking, deep research. The nomenclature is generally close. But with these tools, what you can really do is just have it go off. Look at dozens, potentially even sometimes hundreds of different websites, and come back to you with analysis that it would cite and would bring in this data. Now, I would never ever say, okay, and then you could take this report and just drop it off in your boss's desk and you're done for the day. Not quite, because in reality today, there still might be some errors. There still might be some things that are not quite perfect with that, but it's getting close. And you'll see here, it's going to get you a really good start. So I'm just copying my prompt here, going over to perplexity.ai, and I'm just typing that in. So we're just making up US avocado grower. Um, Actually, here, I mean, again, you can make this anything. We're going to say I'm a US bowling ball exporter. Uh, Analyze country by country tariffs, blah, 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 for exporting bowling balls. That's it. And again, the more detail you add to these prompts, the better, the more accurate it's going to be, the more helpful. If you're mostly focused on exporting bowling balls to Latin America, you can tell it that, whatever it might be. But I just do that, click on this research button, because then, as you can see, it says more advanced analysis on the topic. They only give you one per day of this now because it does take a lot of resources and so forth to do that. And then I hit go. And this is going to go for a while. And you can actually see the thought process of this. And it is going to go, it's kind of walking through how it's going to think through that. And we'll come back in a few minutes to see what this actually does. Many things with AI systems are instantaneous. What we're seeing more and more of today is there's sometimes a little bit of a lag with these. And with that lag actually comes, better analysis and so forth as part of that. So you could actually see it's actually now looking at the harmonized tariff codes for bowling balls, bringing that in and as part of doing the analysis of that. Again, it is impressive what it can do, but we'll come back to this in a couple minutes and see where it's at. Okay. So you saw that. Now, and again, as folks have questions, I'll just take a little mini pause here. Put them in the chats. Andrea's going to ask those questions to me when we're done. We got two more of these things that we're going to go through, but anything that we're talking through related to this specifically or additional things, I do want to hear your questions. So please, please ask those in the chat. Okay. Creative data visualization. This is one of my favorite things that we're now able to do that literally a month and a half ago was not possible at all. I'm going to show you an example of it, and we're actually going to try and do this live as well. And we might stick with the bowling ball theme now that I'm thinking about it. Okay, so here's the real cool thing about this. Why just have the same boring charts that you can always have? I'm a child who grew up in the 80s and 90s. And I remember back in the day, the front page of the USA Today would always have these crazy visualizations. And they had these great artists that were there and that would show you, whatever it might be, but it would actually use a representation of that to actually present the chart. So, for example, in this case here, this is something I did. I was making this for a donut company. And if you want to actually represent the sales of your donuts, you can actually have it show something like that. Now, this was off a little bit, but in one shot, it's actually really cool what it can do as part of that. And again, this is the worst that it's ever going to get. And just kind of think of like the flair and the other things that you could add if you're talking with customers or whomever it might be. You can start to add a lot more to your presentations by using these types of tools. Okay, let's see if this works live. Again, this is actually quite difficult in pulling it together, but this is a new model that OpenAI had put out for image generation just recently. So first thing you want to do is usually the default is ChatGPT 4.0. That is the model you want to use for this, but you want to just make sure you add the tool, create an image. And so you can see it selects image down there, and I'm just going to paste in what I had. So I'm saying, I want you to create a USA Today style infographic chart. It's about monthly. Let's just change this. As I said, we'll do the bowling ball. Should be. Um, I don't know how it's going to stack bowling balls, but we'll see. It stacks donuts a lot. It makes a lot more sense, but let's just see what this has. Uh, okay, and I just put in some real basic data in there, 300, 200, 100. Let's make that 1,000 and just see what happens. And we're going to render this and see what actually happens as part of this. Now, it takes a few seconds to do it. The great thing about this tool is you can do a little bit of back and forth, and I'll even show you just how to do an example of that. But again, just for your reporting, for like bringing this to other audiences, like this is going to potentially just change how you can present data. And again, the point isn't to just show off and just say, hey, look at the cool thing I know how to do. It's to resonate to your audience, to have them pay attention. Uh, so like these are the kind of things that can happen. So here, you are actually seeing this generate this thing basically live. Um, you know, 9 months ago, it could barely even get words structured correctly. That's an image that it just generated that says monthly bowling ball sales. And you can see those are all formed just about perfectly. And did this do? No, this will not have done it right. Oh, this is interesting. So you can actually see it is stacking the bowling balls somewhat correctly, but no, it didn't get it right. So here's what we're going to tell it. We'll say like, let's say, yo, not quite. Um, Dates. Sorry, actually, months go at the bottom, and each bar's height should reflect the number for that month and the appropriate amount of balls. Okay, we'll see if that fixes it. And the worst it's ever going to get. You never know what's going to happen with these things. Here, going back real quickly while we're doing that to Perplexity, you can actually see it is still thinking now. It has found the HS harmonized tariff code for bowling balls in major markets. You could literally see all of these links here are different websites that it is going to. So it is still working. It has gone deep into this. I'm guessing by the end of this, it probably will have gone to hundreds of websites. And again, this is available. This one is free. Like you get one per day free just going to perplexity.ai. And again, there's a whole bunch of other tools that can do this. This is the world of, have you ever heard of agents or agentic AI? Oh, here it is. Actually, you just saw it start to do this. So now it is actually generating the report. It has done all the analysis. It's getting into export requirements, major market tariff analysis, and it's just going to keep going and going here. And then you could ask follow-up questions, do all that stuff. But like, yeah, 96 websites is what it actually went to be able to do this analysis. This is where we're going. It is going to completely change how we do research and so forth as part of that. Okay, so that is number 3, using deep research to do analysis. Better. Still not quite there. Monthly bowling ball sales, that's a little bit off. It kind of cut things off. It didn't put the labels. I would just tell it to do that, but you could actually see it's getting closer with that. I could even say, hey, make the background look like a bowling alley, all this other kind of stuff. There's so much you could do with it. Okay, so getting into one more here. We're going to use one of my favorite tools called Claude, made by a company called Anthropic. It's going to make an interactive dashboard for what we have. So um, basically, this is going to be like an instant reporting tool. I do question tools like Tableau and so forth. how much they're going to be really needed in the immediate future, because you can actually use these tools to generate code to make the exact type of report that you want. And then, assuming you have like a enterprise license for something like Claude, you can actually share it within the company. So make an instrument panel that I can share with others and let them play with the data, real life applications. You can do this for budget tracking, a whole bunch of other stuff. So here's the prompt, and then I'm actually going to, I think, pull up the one that I use. I said, be my data scientist, go deep into this data, create an interactive dashboard, highlight the most important trends, and manipulate the dashboard to find more. And it looks something like that. So here's what I'm going to do just to show you what it's like to actually work with this live in Claude. Just bear with me 1 second while I pull that up. And again, the reason being here is that this will take a few seconds to actually generate this thing. So it will take a little bit of time to actually get this up and working. So here we go. Interactive NYC dashboard. Let's see here. Yes, yes, this should be it right here. So I'm going to put this back on. And sorry, everybody. Just going to reshare the screen here. So I have to keep going back and forth. I know it's, there we go. Okay. So what we have here is I've already uploaded the data into there. I'm basically said, be my data scientist, go deep into this, create an interactive dashboard for me. All that I did was that exact same NYC 311 data. I had already uploaded that into Claude before. So that is in there. And as you could actually see here, what it's doing is it's writing code. And effectively, it is coding its own dashboard reporting tool that you're going to be able to see in the other window here. So this is going, and as you can see, this has already generated probably hundreds of lines of code as part of this. And you could customize this theoretically however you want it to be. If you wanted a certain style of the reporting, if you wanted to focus on whatever it is, the world we're entering now is where software is going to be infinitely customizable. Theoretically, you're going to be able to do this by, oh, and here now it's analyzing the data. So it's actually going through the data and it's going to, oh, it found an error and it's fixing it itself, in fact. Software is going to change. It's going to manipulate. It's going to be constantly evolving. And that is an exciting time where we're all going to be software engineers. And the AI is going to do the coding for us. It's only limited by what we want to see and do with our own imaginations. So that's still going. We can come back to that in a second. Again, going back to the screen share. So like this is what it has. All of these things here are actually clickable when it finishes that. You could do it by borough and status. That was just off a very generic prompt. I could have done this however I wanted to in there. And it would customize it infinitesimally, like in any way I want to for myself. So we saw 5 different tools today. We saw Claude, we saw ChatGPT, Gemini, NotebookLM, and Perplexity. We went through everything from analyzing a whole bunch of data using NotebookLM with Berkshire 10Ks. In Gemini, we were able to see this analysis. Can you find a needle in a haystack in there? Perplexity. We're able to see like deep analysis. Going back to that now, just so you can see. So talking about barriers of entry, like going into hundreds of websites to do analysis on tariffs using the most recent information for us. Claude is still building out our instrument panels. We'll see where it actually gets at the end of this. And cool charting that you can do in ChatGPT. All these are interchangeable. There is just so much that you're able to do with these tools. And truly, you're only limited by what you think you can do with your own imagination and what you think you can actually do. And that is the exciting thing, It is an amazing time to be in finance, to be doing reporting, to be doing analytics, because you are now going to be able to do so much more. The only thing is you just have to be empowered in your job by your boss, by your teams to use these tools, and then be willing to experiment, to try stuff, to play around with these, to spend, you know, 10, 20 hours over the next few months just going deep into these tools, seeing what they can do. When you start to do that, you're going to find a huge unlock that you're able to do so much more with these tools than you ever thought you could otherwise. And it is an exciting time to be in this world. And I envy you all. When I started back in the day in finance, which is where I started my career, oh, it was rough. 1999, going through spreadsheets, learning Visual Basic. You don't need those things anymore. Um, you are going to be able to do so much more with what you have with these tools. So with that, we got about 12 minutes left. I would love, love, love to open this up to Q&A and answer any questions that you folks might have for me. So that said, Andrea or anyone else, like questions, comments, thoughts, anything from the audience that we have you could start off with? And I'm sorry,
Yes,
Andrea. Why did I say Andrea? Andrea.
it's okay. Thanks so much, Mike, for the super informative presentation. I certainly learned a lot. I thought I knew a lot about AI, and then I joined two of your webinars, and I realized I didn't know anything about AI. Thank you so much
No,
for your time.
Andrea, not true. No, no.
We did actually receive a few very insightful questions
Cool.
in the chat, so I'll go ahead and run through those. The first question that we got was from Jonathan, and he asked, can AI solve its significant energy and water usage problem?
Oh, Jonathan. My past life, I did environmental strategy. And one of the things that we would get into is the total life cycle analysis. And I was at a paper manufacturer. And I remember back in 2003, I believe, we were asking the question of what's the difference of somebody reading a book that's printed on paper versus somebody reading an e-reader. This was before the Kindle and all that at the time, versus a laptop screen. Like e-ink technology was just launching. And I remember doing this and I was like, oh my God, it was so difficult. We just gave it up. I'm sure others have tried to do it, but it is so hard because whenever you're getting into something like total life cycle analysis, it's always like, well, what is the alternative to this? And that's not always hard to define. So to answer your question directly, here's what I would say. Every one of these model providers has a financial incentive to use as little water and as little electricity as possible because that costs them money whenever they do that. There is the incentive to do that. You will already see if you use a smaller model versus a bigger one, for example, it uses just less energy to do that. And so, unless they're getting their energy and water for free, which, at least none of the US companies that I know of are, there's the financial incentive that's going to keep them aligned. And they're already pushing people to use smaller models, which you can do a lot more with smaller models today than you could 2 years ago. From a user standpoint, which is also, I think, is part of the question, how do I know that doing that search on Perplexity uses less energy than me doing that research myself? That gets to the total life cycle kind of question of, okay, if I had to look up 100 websites, how much server space is that taking and so on and so forth? Like, and that is how much time would that take me? What am I going to do with that time otherwise and so forth? That's a much tougher question. So here's what I would say, like to this, be mindful of these tools. I would not, if you want to know what 100 times 467 is, do deep research on Perplexity to do that. One, it's going to be super inefficient. Yeah, it will kill some trees, figuratively speaking, trying to do that. Use your calculator to do that. But for certain things, it may make more sense. I haven't seen good data to tell me whether it does or does not. Of, letting this run for 10 minutes versus having a human run for 5 hours to do the same analysis. Um, that will be found out. But at least, until then, I think there's at least an interest that the model providers also have in using less electrons and less water to do this.
Thank you, Mike. All right, we have a load of other questions in the chat, so
Oh, okay. I'll go faster then. That's right.
people
That's
were
right.
reserving their questions to the end, which is awesome. Thanks everyone
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
for your questions. All right. So we have another question from Tamara S. And I'm sorry, Tamara, if I am butchering your name. She wants to know if you have any tips for how to prevent plagiarism or violating copyright laws when info is pulled. Essentially, she just
Oh
wants
my
to
gosh.
use surplus research time to validate info.
Um, I think AI is so I would use a tool like Perplexity is great for that, where it'll actually be able to find sources for you. But also no, in my finding, about a third are wrong. Either they go to dead URLs, made up URLs, or what it says they say in the source doesn't actually map to what's in the source itself. So if I'm doing something where it's important to cite sources properly, to not play part of this, I do use these tools for that all the time. But uh, I would still go to the primary sources part of it. It's a way to get you much quicker, but then go deeper into that. And then, frankly, one of the things you could do is just an bonus. Whenever you write through the AI and say, "Hey, am I plagiarizing anything here?" It won't be right exactly. Like you could do it a couple times with a couple different AIs. Just kind of put your paper or report or whatever it is that you're writing through there. It might pick up on stuff that you might not have noticed otherwise. So it's nice to have as another set of eyes.
Can I build on that question too? I wanted to share that in a research context, at least what I find when I'm looking for some deep experts or what I hear faculty discussing here at SDSU, there are a couple other tools that might be even more narrowly tailored to these purposes. So two that I've explored are consensus.app and elicit.com. Both of these seem to be more inherently aimed at sourcing research papers from credible journals and also provide a lot of really useful filtering tools. So you can find those with the highest citations or those with certain publication dates or certain within certain journals. And this, I think, in an academic research context, is maybe a bit more efficient, a bit more targeted. And importantly, they generally include citations directly back to those papers. So I would suggest to Tamara, you might want to explore some of those other tools that might be more specifically built for academic research, if indeed that is your use case.
Thank you, Ian, for building upon that question. Hope that answers your question, Tamara. We're going to jump down to Ryan. He had a question for Mike. He said, earlier you mentioned that NotebookLM hallucinates less than some of the other models. He mentioned that he's been using AI a lot for different study tools. And he's wondering what types of activities does that hallucination affect most?
Oh, a good question. So, what activities does it affect the most? Interesting. Look, I think it hallucinates just a lot. Look, the longer you go in an AI thread, the more likely it's going to hallucinate. Even some of the more recent models, like O3 from OpenAI, which is like one of their more higher powered ones, seems to hallucinate more than some of their lower powered models, which is a little bit contrary, and we don't fully know why yet. Here's what I would say, sometimes hallucinations don't matter. If you're writing a fiction story or something like that and using this to brainstorm and ideate, it doesn't matter. Um, for things that are more well known, it's much less likely to hallucinate. I'll give one example though. We were actually in the car, my family, and we're talking about this guy from Las Vegas who lost all of his money and some famous story, and we just knew bits and parts, and we asked ChatGPT to tell us about it. This is over our Bluetooth speakers. Um, it made up just about everything. Like this is not a very well-known story, and it was just kind of expanding on that. So the further you're getting on kind of the edges of general knowledge, the more likely it might be to hallucinate about something like that. The more important it is, just the more you have to watch out for that. That's the only thing I would tell. Fact check this. You are ultimately responsible for the thing that comes out of there, not the AI itself. Hallucinations are going to be something we're going to be seeing. They're not going to stop. We haven't found a solution for them yet. So for the time being, we all need to be aware of them.
Thank you, Mike. All right. It looks like we have time for maybe one or two more questions. Um, we have a question from Kelly, and she wants to know if you can speak more to AI pulling live data.
Yeah, so most of these models were made at a point in time, and they were used consuming like all the data on the internet effectively at that point in time. And so, like, the core model has that. But one of the things that's been introduced more recently, and I believe every model has that now, is they can take your query and effectively do like 100 Google searches at once, and then look at the websites that are there and then bring that into the model itself. So, with the example that I was giving for the bowling ball tariffs, that's actually looking at live data on the internet that is out there, timely and so forth. The one thing I would say to watch out for whenever you're using stuff on the web is make sure that it is bringing in recent data. Sometimes it can fuse older data with that. But again, with all of this stuff, it's good for an initial analysis. Treat this like you would treat, an intern just joining your team. They might get 90% of the stuff right, but you got to check that last 10% before you hand it over to your boss.
Beautiful. All right. Thank you so much, Mike. It looks like we're bumping right up on time. And so, um, where can people reach out to you if they have any more questions? I know there was a few that we weren't able to get to in the chat.
Yes, Andrea, thank you. Thanks everybody for attending. If you want to reach out to me, LinkedIn, which you all happen to be on right now, is probably the best place. Just Mike Tedasco on LinkedIn. You could find me there. Send me a direct message or just post something and tag me, whatever you want to do. Always happy to have discussions with people there.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Mike. All right. And before we wrap up, I wanted to open up the opportunity for you all to weigh in on our next topic. Our next AI Expert Series event is going to be on July 11th from 12 to 1 p.m. Pacific time. And so the reason that we had today's event was because you all voted on the topics that you wanted to hear about. And so we want to do the same thing for the next series to make sure that you are learning the things that you want to learn about AI. So if we can, I'm going to go ahead and pull up the next slide for us. If you want to scan the QR code and take less than 30 seconds to vote on the next topic, we would greatly appreciate it. And this will help inform the next session for us.
Speaking of, in the spirit of appreciation, I wanted to also extend a big thank you to the Fowler College of Business, to the James Sibred Brown Center for AI here at SDSU, of course to Mike for bringing so much to us. It might look simple to just have a few folks presenting here, but there's a large team behind us, certainly Andrea, Doug, and many others. So I just want to make sure to express gratitude all around for making it possible for us to bring content like this.
Incredible. All right, well, everyone, that concludes our AI expert series, Turning Data into Action with AI. We hope to see you for the next one on July 11th. Make sure you take some time to vote for the topic that will inform the next session. I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day. And thank you so much again, Mike and Ian, for sharing all of your wonderful insights with us. All right, bye, everyone.